Saints Row developer Volition has been and will continue to be missed. Luckily, fans of the wacky and violent franchise can still get their hands on these games, keeping the legacy alive. But one question still remains: which entry is number 1?
Who wants to come after us? Fine. We know where he lives, we have his guns, and I say it's time we take these fools out!
And that can't wait until after dinner?
No.
Today on Game Route, we're going to be ranking every Saints Row game from worst to first. Coming in last place is Saints Row 2022. The Saints Row reboot was meant to be more of an up-to-date take of the series with a lighter and brighter tone and less of that 2000s era humor. Well, that was the intention anyway. The results, it didn't really work in the studio's favor, and that's in addition to some of the glitches, dull activities, and wonky fast travel. Not to mention the new boss and their gang were less appealing than the originals. Sure, the worst glitches were eventually patched out, but they couldn't manage to change the new gang from being bland Gen Z stereotypes. Coming at number 6, Agents of Mayhem. While technically not part of the main series, Agents of Mayhem does tie into Saints Row beyond sharing a developer. The game follows the Recreate the Earth ending from Get Out of Hell, and it even brings back some characters from previous Saints Row games. Agents of Mayhem is still an open world title, but this game seems far more inspired by Saturday morning cartoons. Some fans and critics felt it had potential to develop, comparing it to the original Saints Row game. That said, Saints Row wasn't considered nearly as buggy or grind-heavy as Agents of Mayhem was.
I'm gonna shoot the devil in the face.
It's a little more complicated than that.
No, I said in the face.
The first entry in our top 5 is Saints Row Get Out of Hell. It's an absolutely bonkers mission to save the boss in the afterlife, but it often feels like Saints Row 4 without the customizable characters and way more hit-or-miss jokes. Fans of the series' wackiness would have likely still enjoyed it enough if it were just DLC for Saints Row 4. That said, fans who prefer the classic gangland violence of the original games probably still would have hated it.
Hey, Satan!
Up next is the game that started it all, Saints Row. Being the first Saints Row game, it had the most room for improvement. Some of its controls and activities felt a little wonky compared to its sequels, but it still has plenty of charm. At the time, it was criticized for being a GTA clone made to satisfy fans until the 4th entry came out, but revisiting its serious entries after a decade of wackiness was quite refreshing. The storylines, gags, gang perks, and the city of Stillwater itself all hit a sweet spot unmatched by many later in the series.
That's the great thing about this city. It's there for the taking, if you've got what it takes.
Coming at number 3, Saints Row the Third. Whether Saints Row the Third or its sequel stands ahead really depends on the gamer's taste, as they're pretty similar. Yet Saints Row the Third came out first and stuck more closely to the classic formula. For many, that's enough to put it ahead of its sillier successor, but it still had some flaws. To make up for this, Volition did lean into more of the wackiness for this entry, giving Saints Row the Third a good balance between the two sides of the franchise. And that brings us nicely to our runner-up, Saints Row 4. Saints Row 4 doubles down on the wackiness of the previous entry by giving boss upgradable superpowers. This shift from being a GTA-like game to a Crackdown-esque one spun the series further down a goofy spiral, and it's even buggier than Saints Row the Third. However, the activities had more variety and the superpowers are really fun to experiment with, and it even had some nice callbacks to the prior games. Saints Row 4 really crafted a nice niche for itself, and if it weren't for the top game on this list, it would be the franchise's best.
This is our city. We do whatever we want to do.
Claiming the top spot is Saints Row 2. While it still has some of that jank, it really strikes a nice balance between serious drama and crazy hijinks. When players found GTA 4 too dour, Saints Row 2 was right there to provide something just a little bit more wild. There were more mini-games and activities, which, if fully completed, gave the boss some pretty nice upgrades. It resembled the original enough, but it's far more refined, making it a great jumping-on point for fans. Suffice it to say, if the series does end up making a comeback, it should probably follow the Saints Row 2 template. And that does it for our ranking of the Saints Row franchise. For even more great gaming content, make sure to stay tuned to Game Rant.